And one state has had a dividend in effect for almost 40 years. And what state is that? And how do they fund it? And what is the oil of the 21st century? Technology, you had it right. It's AI, software, self-driving cars and trucks, big data. This is the oil of the 21st century. What they're doing in Alaska with oil money, we can do for everyone.
Hello, it's Daniel. I'm here in Alaska, and I am with Ray today. And Ray, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background and how you're connected with the permanent fund.
My name is Ray Metcatlef. I was in the legislature when, after the fund was actually created, but before they had set out how the money was going to be invested and that sort of thing. I was the co-author of the investment strategy for the fund. And when we came up with the concept of a dividend, I was sitting in a committee room in a committee meeting, and the committee had just wound up, and they turned off the cameras and the recorders, and the Speaker of the House said, I've been looking at all these ideas, what we ought to do with this newly found money. And this was back when the pipeline was just finished, and the money was starting to roll in large amounts. And he said, everybody's got their hand out, but I think we ought to just send every Alaskan a check. And that sounded kind of novel and surprising to everybody sitting in the room, but he was the Speaker of the House, so he was going to get his way. And he proposed it. And our first proposal proposed that you had to live here for 5 years to get the full benefit. You could be here for 1 year and get 20%, 2 years, 40%, 3 years, 60%, 4 years, 80%, 5 years, 100%. And so that got taken to the Supreme Court by somebody that had only been here for a year, and he won. So we had to rewrite it. And the very first dividend was $1,000. Back then, we didn't anticipate it growing to, we had not thought through that it would someday grow to $3,000, which it is under the existing statutory formula today.
So because it's $3,000 because it's a certain percentage, is that what I'm understanding?
It's 50% of the rolling average for the past 5 years net revenues.
Okay.
And right now that adds up to about $3,000. And that's something that was put into statute when I was in the legislature. And my opinion is that it needs to be revised. We should probably cap it. My opinion is we should cap it at $10,000 a family. And you should cap it at $2,500 per person, not more than $10,000 per family. Because in Alaska, if you live outside and you're willing to pull up roots to go take advantage of that dividend, probably not going to do it for $10,000, or at least most people wouldn't. But if it gets up around $5,000, $6,000, $7,000, and you have a family of 6, you might head this direction real quick. And that kind of incentive.
So there's a concern about immigration to the state.
Yes.
and people getting it. Okay. So one of the things Andrew Yang is proposing for his freedom dividend is to have an 18-year time frame before it would be available to you.
18-year time frame. What do you mean?
You have to
be 18 years old. You have to live here for 18 years.
You have to live here for 18 years old. Because that's the same, you have to be 18 or live here for 18 years to be able to get it. It's a long-term citizenship plan.
Unconstitutional. Can't do it. Supreme Court will throw it out.
Really?
Yes.
And why is that?
Same reason they threw out our first proposal.
Okay. And can you explain that a little bit?
You cannot discriminate against naturalized citizens.
Okay, but
once you're sworn in as a citizen, you have the same rights as everybody else.
Right, they wouldn't be a citizen for 18 years. They would have to wait 18 years to become a citizen.
That would be a change nobody's going to go for.
Really?
When somebody wants to get naturalized, or somebody applies for citizenship, you can't change the way people apply for citizenship. And you can't put an 18-year restriction on who gets to participate.
Well, right now, don't you have to wait a certain amount? 1 year?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, to be
5 years was thrown out by the U.S. Supreme Court.
5 years was thrown out, but well, why did 5 years get thrown out compared to 1 year? You still have to have a wait.
We couldn't, well, to claim residency, you have to be here for a year.
Okay, that's just what they decided. A year was good, 5 years was bad.
5 years was too much, 5 years was okay.
So you don't think 18 years would fly with the Supreme Court?
Oh,
Okay. Well, that's definitely a concern we haven't thought about. The idea is that, if somebody is willing to wait 18 years to become a resident, then more power to them, then they deserve the $1,000 a month. But, never thought about the Supreme Court not being okay with a waiting period like that.
well, you're not going to be able to tell people they can't be a resident for 18 years. And once they are a resident, you can't make them wait 18 years to get treated like everybody else.
Okay.
Or
Well,
once they are a citizen.
right. It's about a long-term path to citizenship is what is being recommended. So, well, that's definitely something to think about. But as far as Andrew Yang talks about Alaska having the permanent fund over 40 years and widely popular, passed with a Republican governor, and what we did in Alaska, we can do for every U.S. citizen with a tech check. Do you think that's
I think sooner or later, the country's going to have to do, the whole world's going to have to do. I mean, as we get richer and richer and richer, and as technology replaces more and more jobs, sooner or later, there won't be a job, but there'll be wealth, lots of wealth. In other words, when the robots fix the robots that build the cars, there's no job for you. And when there's no job for you, you still need to eat. You still need to recreate. And the money is there for all of us to do it.
so? What he's saying it does seem fair.
Well, it's just like Ford. When Ford said to his board, over the objection of his board, that he was going to pay his workers $5 an hour, so that his workers could buy the car they made. That changed America. They were distributing wealth.
So we could do it for all America then. And you're
Sooner or later, you're going to have to, because the wealth's going to be there and the jobs aren't.
okay. And so what changes would you? And right now, the permanent dividend is having issues, and you talked about some reforms that you would enact. But you were, according to the email that you sent me, you were talking about how we really have the money. It's because we're giving the oil companies a discount is primarily what you think has caused the problem, right?
Well, a major part of our problem is let's see, in 2006, I was working with the FBI to prove that legislators were taking bribes from an oil company, an oil service company. And we proved that. We put six legislators in jail. And right after we did that, our tax structure changed. And suddenly we had billions more rolling into the state treasury. And it took about 6 years for the oil companies to regain control of our oil companies, our legislature. And they passed a new tax bill that suited their needs and wishes. And during that 6-year period, we saved up $17 billion from the extra money given. And since the oil companies managed to regain control of the governor's office and the legislature, we have now spent down those $17 billion. And therein lies the fight. We're running short on savings, and we're not getting enough what we should be getting for our oil. So
it sounds like the main problem you're saying is corruption.
Yes.
Is causing you to not fund
the whole problem boils down to corruption.
So you heard it here first. We have to make sure that corruption doesn't get into whatever universal basic income that we want to enact in this country, and it's causing our problem in Alaska right now.
It is.
So
we had 2 state senators who were full-time employees at ConocoPhillips.
So the lobbyist system is a big problem.
No, not lobbyists. These are state senators.
Okay.
and they are on ConocoPhillips payroll.
I see.
One of them's making, quote, between 100 and 200,000. The other one's making between 250 and 500.
Okay.
They both got big raises after they helped push through a big tax break for their employer. They're being paid many times more by ConocoPhillips than they were by their employers. I mean, by the state legislature. They gave them around 360 days off over the course of 2 years to go participate in the legislature. Do you think they'd have given them those things if they'd have been against giving them a tax break?
No.
Therein lies the law.
Well, all we can do is be the solution, not the problem. But that's some good insight for what Andrew Yang wants to, of course, change the structure. But we need to get tougher on people who are breaking the law as far as taking bribes and not working for the people.
Well, my suggestion is that to get there, if you want to create a fund, we should take the things that the federal government sees as assets to exploit, whether it's an oil field or a forest or whatever it is, something that's a mine, anything that is going to make money for the government should be put into a corporation that is the People Corporation. And the proceeds of its endeavors should go into a growth fund, and deposits into that growth fund and dividends to the people should be determined by the size of the deposits that go into the growth fund.
That's interesting, because Andrew Yang talks very generally about how it would work out. He only talks about that he does want to do a value-added tax where it's a transaction tax for targeted on tech companies, but really it'd be for any corporation that is making billions and billions of dollars. It would be a piece of every transaction that they do, so they wouldn't be able to get out of paying taxes like Amazon has for the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. But you're saying that it needs to go into a corporation fund that
a growth fund, like the permanent fund. It's a growth fund,
right? So it grows based on investments and based on.
Well, it started out with deposits that came from oil.
Right.
Now its earnings from its investments are bigger than the deposits from oil.
Okay.
It still gets deposits from oil.
So it has the ability to grow even past initial deposits. So we could do that with the tech fund, use the taxes as a deposit on a bigger fund that grows and grows for the people over the years.
Yes, or the revenues of assets you develop. In other words, the government has an awful lot of assets from which they derive income. But if you take a hard look at it, there's a lot of those assets they're not getting what they should be getting. People are getting favors. Rich people are getting filthy rich because somebody gave them a government asset. And that will be much harder to do if all the people have an interest in that government asset and are paying attention to make sure they get their fair share.
And that's not being done right now in Alaska.
The structure of the permanent fund is such that doesn't happen to the extent it should.
Okay. Yeah. So
it happens to a degree, but not to the extent it should.
Okay. So now, a lot of people like to equate a dividend to the people as socialism.
No, think of it this way.
Okay.
In Texas, almost all the land is privately owned, and they own the subsurface mineral rights. In 1920, there was an act of the federal government that said no more mineral rights are conveyed into private hands. Now, that made America like the rest of the world, because subsurface mineral rights are owned by the government, not the landowner. The landowner owns the surface rights.
Okay.
Anywhere else in the world. So that made us like the rest of the world. And when Alaska became a state, that was already law. So we came in under that. that statute, that federal statute. And so all the land in Alaska is owned, or subsurface minerals are owned by the state, with one exception. There was a native land claim settlement. They own subsurface minerals in 40,000 acres. We're 305 million acres. They own 40 million acres. We're a 304 million acre state. Those subsurface minerals are either owned by the federal government if they're under federal land. 100 million of those acres are ours. And we own all the minerals under those. So if you lived in Texas and you had family roots and your great-grandfather discovered oil and now there's 100 of you descendants, you're probably splitting up some royalties.
Okay.
Here, we all own it. We're splitting up a royalty.
Okay. Well, the definition of socialism is when the government owns means of production. But you're saying really it's not really the government, it's all of us individuals owning a piece of it.
Yeah, it's ours.
It's ours.
It's mine. It's be yours if you live to.
Okay. Okay. Well, here we go for this election. It should be interesting, especially some of the proposals that are out there. But here in Alaska, the permanent fund is very popular. And right now they're trying to figure out how to keep it going for years to come. And definitely corruption is a part of it. And also making sure that the people are getting the money that they deserve because they own part of it. As a dividend, they're getting royalties. So thank you very much for speaking with me today. And go ahead and subscribe and like and share this video so that we can get more information about the proposal for universal basic income out there. Thank you, everyone. Take care. Bye.